Hello everyone. So I wanted to do this video about what is happening in Los Angeles, California. And I know that this probably is like an offshoot of what's going on. It all ties together. And so I really want to warn you all. I'm going to go flip through some photos. All of this is in LA and in LA County. You're going to see photos of poverty, and this is what LA looks like now, and this is how it is happening, and this is what's going to go down. The LA landlords are suing the city. I believe they're suing for the moratoriums and the freeze on the rents and evictions because they are struggling commercial residential rental companies, and they can't pay their taxes and they can't pay their mortgages, and so therefore it puts them in a situation where they could end up getting in a lot of financial troubles. And so from this moratorium from March, April, and May, there are some people were able to pay partial rent, make agreements with their landlords, or they paid full rent but they paid it slow. However, there's a majority of folks who weren't able to pay the rent because they didn't have a lot of money or they didn't have a cushion. They couldn't just work at home. They don't have part-time jobs, or they don't have unemployment or access to unemployment, or something went wrong where they just could not pay the rent. And so now these moratoriums that they had set up to freeze the rents, it didn't take away the rent, it just froze it for 3 months so you didn't have to worry about paying it, but they still are wanting you to pay this rent. So you have to come up with March, April, and May money by at least June or the end of June here in Los Angeles. And so there's going to be a lot of homelessness. This is not people with mental illness and having to do with substance abuse. This is people that we already had a problem with homelessness, where they were priced out of their neighborhoods because they couldn't afford it. Well, now, since COVID-19, the pandemic took place, now you're going to see more and more of this. And this is what Los Angeles already was looking like. And I don't know, the news does not cover these things. And so I wanted you to see this is what we're seeing. It was just designated to Skid Row, but Skid Row has grown over a period of months to a period of years, to where you'll see some streets, some places that are lined with tents, and most of the vulnerable population tends to be Black and Hispanics and poor whites. And so this is what you see are people that are coming from other countries that just don't have the means, or they don't make the money to survive. And this is how the cities are starting to look, and it's not just in Los Angeles. I'm afraid to say it's in other sprawling cities, or cities that aren't sprawling, that are just like with New York, and then you have Detroit, and then you have other cities where people are homeless and they just can't afford to pay. And now the COVID-19 pandemic even makes this more harder for people that were already in these predicaments. And this is what we're seeing. This is what we were seeing before the pandemic. Now that people can't pay for the 3 months, they were just hanging on. They were working. They were doing what they could, but they lost their job because of the pandemic. And now they're going to join the fold of people that you see. Here is a corner truck. People are dying on the streets. And so it's not only a pandemic for Black people that are getting killed by police, but you also have the vulnerable populations of Black and brown people and poor people anywhere in between. If you're not Black or brown, people who just can't afford it, who are basically, you're dying on the streets because you just can't pay the rent, you can't get your medicine, or you're in a vulnerable position and you end up in situations where you have nowhere else to stay and you're thrust on the streets of Los Angeles. And many times you see these scenarios and play out in downtown of Los Angeles, but it has spread out now even into the neighborhoods in the communities where people are living like this and their life is in their baskets. Literally. You go to some grocery stores, they have to order more baskets because the baskets are being used for people that are homeless as a makeshift closet or suitcase, or it's where they roll their life in the basket on wheels. And so this is what is going on, and they're not showing much of this. They just sort of sweep this under the rug. We not only have the pandemic of the killing of black people and jailing in mass numbers of black and brown people, but you also have this scene here where you have poor people, all walks of life. No matter whether you're black or brown, if you don't have the cash, then you don't have a place to stay. And so privilege is also having the money and the means as well. And some people who have a lot of money, they know how to get out of a situation and move away from what they see happening. Instead of them being proactive to help, they move away from it or they step over it. They ignore it. They close their eyes to it. They shut the TV off because they don't want to see this. But this is what Venice Beach is looking like. This is what some of the neighborhoods are seeing. We're seeing in metropolitan areas, and it's gotten worse. Even under the freeway, people have pretty much occupied their tents in their home and livelihood under freeways in Los Angeles County, and it's everywhere. And they keep trying to sweep families out of these apartments onto the street, and then they sweep them off the street. And now you have this. These are not people that are mentally ill. These are not people that are on drugs. These are people who just simply couldn't afford the rent, the high rents in these apartments and in these what they quote unquote call luxury lofts and luxury apartments. You don't have the luxury money, then you don't have a place to stay. And now the pandemic comes. And now you have people who can't afford to stay anywhere except the place they're in. And they might be getting an eviction notice and end up like you see this family here. And so this is Los Angeles City, and this right here is what you see. And they claim that they're going to make all these different programs to tackle homelessness, and we have yet to see that happen. And now what are we going to do since they have more tsunamis of evictions headed their way and more homelessness? This is what we see in Los Angeles. This is what we see in Hollywood, where we have people who are in Skid Row, and this is what we see. This is what we see not only in California, but even in San Francisco. We see the growing numbers of homelessness, and it's everywhere. It seems to be that the people who can't afford it can't have their basic needs, home, food, shelter, even your basic needs are stripped away from you simply because you just don't have the means. And now we have all the reason to validate why we have no means, but you're still being evicted from the only place that you have is shelter for your children or your home of where you stay and your residence that you feel safe in. And now you're on the street having to be amongst you don't know who, living in tents, in squalor. And so this is what is going on. And I just thought I would bring this to people's attention that the homeless thing has not gone away. It's coming full throttle, and it's going to come even worse now that the pandemic has happened. And this is what we're seeing here. This is streets that are happening right now and what we see when we pass by them. And you see the beautiful backdrop, and it's easy to pan the camera up and ignore the homelessness. See, and a lot of times people don't see all of the tents that are lying right under, just under those fancy high-rise buildings. But as you pan the camera down, this is what you're going to see: all of the homelessness and all of the squalor living, and all of the rodents that come along with it, and the poor people that are out on the street that have nothing else except good intentions. You have all these little programs where people claim they're going to try to tackle homelessness, but I have yet to see it. And so I wanted to let you know that this is not over. This is a fight for survival, a fight for your livelihood, a fight for your human rights to be treated humane. And this is inhumane, as you see this here. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Antoinette 70.